So just for the tape, I'll review it, that your speech is about how to do good opening lines when you give a speech. So you gave 2 examples of what not to do from the conference that you went to, and then you're telling people 3 ways to do a good speech, and you're ordering them in your 3rd favorite way to do it, your 2nd favorite way, your 1st favorite way. So your 3rd favorite way is to ask the audience a question. Raise your hand if you've ever had pizza. The 2nd one is to give an astonishing fact. There are more guns in the United States than there are citizens. That's actually true, by a little bit. And then the best one is once upon a time. Right? This is according to you. Now, since you're giving a speech about opening lines, your opening line has to be really good. And if you're telling the audience how to give a speech, and you're saying the best way to open a speech is once upon a time, you have locked yourself into your speech must start with once upon a time. Otherwise, someone's going to say, why should I start my speech once upon a time? You say it's the best thing, but you opened it some other way. And you did open it a different way. Now, I like once upon a time. So since you're giving advice that the best thing to do to open a speech is once upon a time, you were going to be opening your speech with once upon a time, which is fine. So you start with once upon a time. Now we have these 2 stories about 2 bad opening lines. So you had the person who was doing the mic check, and the other person who reintroduced themselves. So you have the mic check here, then you have the people who did a reintroduction. Okay. Then we need to know, so you're going to have an opening line, you're going to tell these stories. Now, what are your stories for the questions? Are you going to give us stories with these, an example?
Like what I did, I said that like if I go to networking event, and so in networking, it's better to start to come up to the person and say, I think you have someone in common. So by letting the person that you have someone in common, you kind of get the person's attention. So,
yes. Now that's an opening line, but is that a question, astonishing fact, or once upon a time?
It's just some kind of saying. So in a public speech, you starting with a question that matters to audience, that make you and audience something in common.
So this is where I started to get lost because there are 2 things happening in your speech. Now this is clear. I'm going to teach you how to give good opening lines for speeches. Here are 2 examples of what not to do and 3 examples of what to do. Mm-hmm. You had in there how to do an opening line at a networking party. Now, is that another speech? It doesn't fit into this. No. So where would it fit? So we can either take it out because it doesn't fit, or if you want to use a networking example, would any networking example fit in here? And do you want to talk about networking and opening up a speech, or just stay focused?
I think you should probably take it out and just say that, just give us an example that how you can start with a question.
Yes, which is why I was getting confused, because it seemed like it was getting rambling, because we got off track with talking about networking. So let's just stick on this one. So our first story for the conference that you went to is a person who introduces themselves again by name, their position, and what they're going to talk about. So you're not going to repeat. And then the mic check, can you hear me? How much time do I have? Basically asking questions to operational people that the audience hears. Okay, that's fine. So we'll make these humorous stories. Mm-hmm. And now you're going to talk about your 3rd favorite. Now, why are these ranked this way? Like, what is the benefit to your speech by doing 3, 2, 1 instead of 1, 2, 3?
I think probably like to finish with the best one and like people hear one and they want to hear better. They want to hear better.
Okay, so we could do this two ways. You can say my third favorite, my second favorite, and my favorite. So now you can do that. People are a little bit upside down. Or you could say the first method, the second method, and I've saved the best for last. This is the all-time best opening, Once Upon a Time.
Yeah, this is probably better than that.
Okay. So what we'll do is that we're still going to keep the emphasis that you want to have on it, but we're going to go back to what people are used to, which is 1, 2, 3 instead of 3, 2, 1. So the first way is by opening with a question. The second way is opening with an astonishing fact. And the third and best, my favorite way, is the way I just opened my speech today, Once Upon a Time. So you can throw in a little bit of humor with that. And then we're going to put in, what is your supporting material behind Once Upon a Time? You had, because it holds attention?
Because let people know that I'm going to tell a story now. So I'm saying that, like when we were kids, when we tell a story to the kids, we start with literally with the phrase "once upon a time." But in the business world, there is like grown-up way of saying "once upon a time," which means just to come up with a phrase that let people know that I'm about to tell the story.
Okay, so I'm about to tell a story.
And as an example, I'm saying that if we are sitting in a restaurant and someone has a birthday, so if I just come up and say, hey, like, I'm gonna tell a story about this guy that nobody knows, and people start paying attention. Oh yeah, I want to hear that story.
Yes, what you're talking about is priming. It's priming you. So if I say, ding, 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 I like to give a toast, everyone knows what that means. They're all going to get quiet. They're going to pay attention. I'm about to do something special for somebody. So now I've gotten everyone's attention, because when I say the word, I'd like to give a toast, they know what's about to happen. And you can do the same thing with Once Upon a Time. Everybody knows, you're priming them. They know a story's about to come. We're going to lean in and listen to the story. So what I'd encourage you to think about is what happens in the brain is that Once Upon a Time primes you, that you know what to expect. A story's going to come, and I'm going to have your attention for another minute or two while I tell the story. It's the same thing as, and you could get it, bring in a glass with a spoon. It's the same, the priming is the same as ding, 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 ding. I'd like to give a toast. We all know that one. Now, you could think about using this as a prop. We're just talking out loud right now. So you'd have a knife and a wine glass. Could also be interesting to think about it up in your open. Because if you're going to give this example, it should be your open. So let's say that you're going to do Once Upon a Time, because it primes you the same way we do a toast. So what your third one, instead of being called Once Upon a Time, could be called priming. And you give two examples, Once Upon a Time and the glass. Okay? So let's say we have the glass up here. Now remember, this is called Toastmasters, so you can make a joke out of this. Imagine if your open was Once upon a time, I gave a speech about how to do opening lines. So that could be your open. Okay? And now you're going to have to transition into, so now you've qualified that you've qualified this. These are going to be easy. We're going to have to get a transition into why you're going to tell these two stories. Because we're locked into the Once Upon a Time. I gave a speech. So let's say it came out something like this. Ding, 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 ding. Once upon a time, I gave a speech about how to open a speech. But first, a story about what not to do. Or, but first, a horror story. I went 3 weeks ago to a conference, and I was horrified by what I heard. The first speaker went up, and now you can talk about these. So now you can do this whole story thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you could talk about these 2 horror stories. And again, these are just ideas. But you see how I'm bringing in a common theme? That it's all about opening lines. We're using opening lines well, and we're talking about stories. So now we've got 2 horror stories of this guy. And now, let me tell you about what other kind of stories are there? Let me tell you about fairy tale openings or magical openings. We're going to need a line in here to talk about how these are 3 really good things. Okay? So we can come up with this one a little bit later, but these are types of stories. So I'm thinking of a type of story. We could just do something like, yeah, you've heard of happy endings. What about happy beginnings?
That's a good one.
All right? Okay. So we've got happy endings, and now we've got happy beginnings. There are 3 ways you can do this. The first one, now do these for real. Instead of telling the story, do them for real. Raise your hand if you've ever cheated on your wife. Raise your hand if you've ever shoplifted. Raise your hand if you're anything, any kind of question. And you really throw it out there. And then you can say, that's an opening line. Didn't I get your attention? Raise your hand if that's your car being towed outside. That's not a bad one, actually. But you could do stuff where people think that you're talking to them. I kind of like this theme. And there's also some humor in it. Raise your hand if that's your car getting a ticket. Did I get your attention? That's one way to open a speech, by asking a question. Astonishing fact. We need an astonishing fact that's going to be on people from Boston. I think you already gave a speech about this. It's somewhat astonishing, but not really. Boston drivers have more accidents than anybody else in the United States. We are the problem. Something like that. So some astonishing fact that is going to relate to.
So yeah, to people who is an audience.
We could use the prison example.
Oh yeah.
That prisoners who did Toastmasters have a 90% decreased chance of going back to jail when they get out. You are Toastmasters. If you go to jail, you have a 90% chance of not going back a second time. All right? It's going to get their attention.
Are you recording this?
Yeah, I'm recording it.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then the priming one, go back to the example. Ding, 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 ding. I'd like to give a toast to all of you Toastmasters. I have about 30 seconds of your attention to give an interesting toast because I just primed you. Once I did this, we know what that means. You're going to give me about 30 seconds. It's not a bad opening. And once upon a time, you'll give me 5 seconds of silence and about 3 minutes to tell a story. And that's why, ding, 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 once upon a time is my favorite opening line because I get your attention and I bought myself some time. Okay? Now that could be your close. Your open could be your close. Going back to ringing the bell again. Because now I have 3 minutes. Okay? So this I like, happy endings, happy beginnings. Do we need this now? we need to know what not to do?
Well,
We can, I'm just asking. Because everything that we say should go back to the point. And the point is we're trying to tell people 3 ways to open up a speech. So you open it well, you give them 3 ways to open it, you give a good close. This was really to tell people, you know, what not to do. What you could do is tell a speech about what you heard and that inspired you to tell people what they should be doing.
yeah.
Okay? So you can
Yeah.
say that this story gave you the inspiration for this speech today, or this speech is for all the people at that conference who weren't here. I discovered people need to hear this. So we can maybe think that this is somehow, this experience inspired you, that people need to hear this message, and that's why you're giving it.
Yeah, this makes sense.
Now it starts to, so
yeah,
we
and
open
now
up.
it's like the way I did it. It seems like I come up and do like some teaching people, and now it leads to a story. Like
Yeah,
I went there, I experienced, I saw a lot of bad opening, and that just inspires me to
right.
come up
Now,
with a story with it.
it's important what you just said, because when you teach people, you run the risk of giving unsolicited advice.
Yeah.
You run the risk of looking like the arrogant know-it-all, and someone might know more than you. But instead, we can soften that by saying, this is my experience of what I saw. And that inspired me that people need to know better ways to do things. And that's why I'm giving this speech today, for people that might need to know, because I want to help the world. You don't have to say those words, but you want to feel those, that you're giving the gift. You know, I'm here just trying to help you from my experience and what I know. And that's a lot different than, you know what you need to do? If you're going to open a speech, there's only 3 ways to do it, otherwise you're doing it wrong. Okay? So you see, like the attitude is a little bit different. So to give you like a quickie review, so we're going to start with, you know, ding, 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 ding. Once upon a time, I saw a live horror show. And it was 2 weeks ago. I went to a conference with very talented speakers. The first speaker opens his line by saying, "Hi, my name's John Smith. I'm director of this company, and I'm going to talk about ABC." I already knew that. I had his name and his position and his speech title in the handout already. He lost me at hello. Remember that one? He lost me at hello. Do you know what that means? When he had me at hello, it's a famous movie.
No.
Americans know about it. Don't worry about it. Just say, it was when Sally met Harry. There was a famous line that says, "You had me at hello," meaning I fell in love with you the minute you said first word to me. What you're going to say is, he lost me at hello. So your speech example has to be, the guy comes up to the podium and says, "Hello, my name is John Doe, da-da-da-da." I had all this information on the handout. He lost me at hello.
Can I say that like guy sitting next to me starts checking his email in the beginning of the speech?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
I'll put that in next. So he lost me at hello, and I just wanted to text. He didn't give me a hook. And the horror story didn't end there. The second speaker, he got up and said, "John, do you hear my mic? Is my computer plugged in? Is the PowerPoint going? Who's got my clicker?" When I got about 15 minutes, "Hi, welcome." That was his open. That was another horror story. I could not believe that professionals, true experts in their field, open their speeches this way. And it inspired me to think about what are the best ways to open a speech? One of them is by asking a question. That's something I learned in Toastmasters. Is that anyone's car being towed outside? Oh, you see, it is effective. If some of you drove here, you're looking out the window. The question is a hook. It also allows me to get you to move to see if you're alive. Raise your hand if you're alive. The question is a great one. I personally love it. The second one that I really like is the astonishing fact. Did you know that since you are all Toastmasters, if you go to jail, you have a 90% chance of not going to jail again? And that's true because Toastmasters has a prison program. And what they found is that prisoners who were incarcerated learning public speaking did not return to jail again. The recidivism rate, don't try that word if you can't say it, but you can practice it. And a lot of people might not know what it means, but that's the word for it. The rate of people going back into jail for a second time after they get out drops by 90% if they went to Toastmasters. It's an astonishing fact. And isn't it astonishing to you because you're already Toastmasters? That's a second way to open up a speech, by giving someone an astonishing fact that relates to them. You're Toastmasters. If you ever go to jail because that's your car being towed, you might not go back to jail a second time. Ding, 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 ding. Once upon a time. Priming. When I made this sound, it's just like the dinner bell. We know a toast is about to be made. You're going to give me 30 seconds of quiet. You're all going to quiet down. You're going to listen because I'm about to honor somebody. I've primed you. Once upon a time, I have about 5 seconds of silence. And then I have about 3 minutes to tell you a story that's going to interest you. That is my favorite opening line because it gets people quiet and it buys me time that I have a few minutes to hold your interest. And that's why I gave my speech, and that's why I opened my speech with Once Upon a Time. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay?
Awesome.
That's the basic idea. Ooh, wow.